Switch 2 Direct. Finally, at last, we've gotten the full reveal of the console, along with all of its launch titles, and a lot of really interesting features and tidbits about the future of Nintendo. Of course, there were a few kind of unfortunate things we did learn that kind of soured the taste here, but overall I do think it was still a great Direct, and there's a lot to be excited for. Let's first just get into the console itself. Obviously it's bigger, the Joy-Cons are magnetic, but I would say the biggest and most important thing here are the specs. It will be able to run up to 120 frames, and it has 4K support. This is huge. I mean, the current Switch is honestly feeling ancient, and the biggest issue with it, especially with recent games, it feels is just, they feel so outdated. It's really just struggling to run anything, even at a stable 30 frames. So to actually get that huge bump up to 120 frames is amazing. I am very excited for it. It looks like it'll be both 120 frames in both docked mode and handheld, and it looks like it's actually going to have even better specs than the Steam Deck, which is great. Very impressive. Honestly, I didn't really expect the console to be that powerful. I definitely expected 60 frames, but hey, we got 120 and 4K. So I definitely think that is the most attractive feature of this new console. But let's get into a little more features of the software here. Finally, after what, 20 years, a Nintendo console has game chat. It has a party system. It's had online since the 3DS, where you could like add friends and you could see like when they're online. But it looks like finally they're adding a point to that, because typically you could see people online, and sure, like some games you could play with each other, but there was no like way to communicate. You couldn't even like message people. And finally it looks like with the Switch 2, I doubt it's going to be on the Switch 1, I think it's just going to be Switch 2 exclusive. They're going to be adding a party system. It looks, based on the trailer, almost identical to Discord. It looks like you're going to be able to kind of see people talking on the bottom of your screen while the actual game is on your screen as well. You can video chat, you can share your screen, all the Discord features. Looks amazing. I hope it works well. I don't know how often I'm really going to be using it. I mean, a lot of these Switch games that I play are single player. I don't really see myself hopping on, just to talk with friends on the Switch. I mean, I'm probably just going to be using Discord anyways. But it is cool to see that finally come to Nintendo. So hopefully it goes over well, and hopefully it all feels good and doesn't have, bad quality or whatever. Another really cool addition to Switch Online is the GameCube emulator. Finally, we're getting some amazing GameCube games. I don't have a GameCube, and I've been wanting to play a lot of games, including like Pokemon Colosseum, Gale of Darkness, Luigi's Mansion, and all of those are coming. There's a couple other really great GameCube games coming, and hopefully they expand that library over the years, because GameCube has some pretty awesome games. I am still hoping at some point we can get a DS and 3DS addition to the expansion pack, because man, I just want to play those old Pokemon games. And honestly, the whole DS and 3DS library has so many fantastic games, so I'm still hoping. I remember there was that rumor a while back where people were saying there might be an add-on you can buy for the Switch 2 that basically adds a second screen, like a top screen, so you can treat it like a giant DS, which I don't know if I see them doing that, but it would definitely be cool to see. Just so we have that, feeling, same kind of feel of playing on a DS, if they do add that to the expansion pack. But we'll just have to wait and see for that. It is nice to actually get the GameCube games, though. Very excited for that. But moving on to the actual game announcements themselves, we actually got a ton of amazing games, both third-party and first-party. First and foremost, because of the Switch 2's upgrade in power, a lot of modern big AAA games are finally coming to the Switch 2, including Elden Ring, Hades 2, and in the future, Borderlands 4. So it looks like the Switch 2 is really expanding their third-party support, which is going to be really cool to see. Personally, I probably won't be getting many third-party games. I mean, I primarily play on PC. I'll probably only be using my Switch for, Nintendo games like I always have. But it's still cool to see a bigger library finally. Looks like they were also going to be doing Switch 2 editions of existing Switch games. So this was a big factor that a lot of people were speculating about, is are they going to just allow any Switch game natively run better on the Switch 2? Or is it going to be, only Switch 2 versions of the game? From the sounds of it, it looks like most Switch games, or maybe all, I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to just wait and see. But it looks like most Switch games are going to be backwards compatible for the Switch 2. But from the sounds of it, it doesn't look like they're actually going to run any better. It looks like they're going to run the same. The only way to get that performance upgrade is if said game has been optimized for the Switch 2 with a Switch 2 edition. They only announced a couple of these, but the big ones are definitely Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They're both going to be getting a Switch 2 edition with a higher frame rate, better resolution, and I think maybe a couple extra features they might have added. There's also going to be one for one of the Mario Party games. I think it's a Mario Party Jamboree. That's also getting a Switch 2 exclusive version. And I'm not really sure. I really do hope most, if not all games, can just natively run better. But again, from the sounds of it, it doesn't look like it's actually going to be the case. It looks like you're only going to be able to run a game in better performance if you have the Switch 2 edition. So if you have a game you really want to play on your Switch 2, just hope and pray for a Switch 2 edition. As far as the first party games, there is a ton of new games coming out that look very, very exciting. First, of course, which we already knew from the last reveal direct, there was the new Mario Kart. This was kind of a no-brainer, even before we knew about it. I think most people expected there to be a new Mario Kart. A lot of people wanted a new 3D Mario as well, but we didn't get that, unfortunately. But hey, Mario Kart will satisfy most for a while, I think. This one is Mario Kart World, and it looks really cool. It's switching up the formula a lot from the traditional Mario Kart. It looks like it's going to be almost entirely open world. They said you can basically leave a track that you're on and just drive off to a completely different track. Seems kind of cool. It's going to be something to get used to. I'm interested to see how it'll work if you can kind of just leave mid-race and just go somewhere else. I don't know. I imagine it'll be similar to something like The Crew, where the world is just a entire open map that you can go anywhere you want, and certain areas will have, like a challenge or time trial that you can do. And I imagine it'll also have multiplayer where you can just kind of cruise around the entire map with friends. It looks really cool. The new features also look pretty cool with the like wall riding. It looks really fun. I'm very excited to get my hands on this, but that is not all. It looks like we're also getting a 3D Donkey Kong. I believe this is the first ever 3D DK game. I've never been a big DK guy. I don't know if I've ever even played a DK game, but honestly, from this trailer, it looks incredible. I'm definitely going to try this out. It looks like this 3D DK is kind of replacing a 3D Mario for this launch. I have no doubt within the next year or two, we'll probably get news on a new 3D Mario pretty soon. But honestly, 3D DK, perfectly fine with that. Also a new Kirby game. It's a kind of racing Kirby game, which is kind of interesting to see because, we already have Mario Kart and we're literally getting a new Mario Kart. So you'd kind of question, okay, why release yet another racing game alongside it? But hey, it's the creator of Smash Bros. And if this is the game he wants to work on, that's awesome. I'm all for it. I'm sure it'll be good. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it. We'll see if most people enjoy the game and say it's worth getting. Maybe I'll get it. We'll see. Now, aside from all of the great new first-party Nintendo games, which there's a couple more I missed, but those are the main ones, there was one announcement that was by far the most shocking, and that's a new FromSoft game. I was watching this the morning of the Direct. I was watching it live, and the moment this trailer started, I was freaking out. Because if you watch it from the start, it looks exactly like a Bloodborne 2. It looks like it takes place in the world of Bloodborne. Maybe not, in Yharnam, but man, it looks very similar. But I was freaking out. I thought this was actually a Bloodborne 2. And honestly, it might kind of be. So this is the Duskbloods. It is a Switch 2 exclusive FromSoft game. I don't know how to feel about that. I'm not a big fan of exclusives, and it's kind of unfortunate that, I won't be able to play this on other platforms. Maybe it'll also release on PC, kind of like how a lot of Sony games release on PlayStation and PC as well. I'm hoping that's the case, but it'll probably not release on PC for a long time, even, if it does. So that kind of sucks. Regardless though, new FromSoft game. Very exciting. I have a kind of theory that, Bloodborne is a Sony exclusive. It is PlayStation only. And we know that Sony, I believe, has the entire rights to Bloodborne's IP. So even if FromSoft wanted to release Bloodborne on other platforms, even if they wanted to make a new game using the Bloodborne IP, they need permission from Sony. They would have to work with Sony directly. And it doesn't seem like Sony wants to do anything with the Bloodborne IP. I mean, the 10th anniversary was just, like a week ago, and Sony didn't say anything. They didn't do anything for the anniversary. And I feel like Bloodborne has gotten only more popular over the years. So I think this is kind of FromSoft's way of saying, okay, if Sony won't give players Bloodborne 2, we'll do it ourselves. And I think that's what they're kind of doing here. That's what this move is. They're making a game very similar to Bloodborne and making it another exclusive, and almost kind of just to spit in the face of Sony. That's what it seems like. I obviously don't know, and we really don't know much about the game at all. But that's the vibe I'm getting. It looks great. I'm definitely going to play it. They announced on the FromSoft Twitter and Instagram that this is a PvE VP game. So the question is, okay, is it going to be much more PvP based than their current games, or is it going to be kind of the same? Because that makes it sound like it's going to be much more PvP focused, right? Elden Ring and the Souls games, they all have PvP elements, but they're, at their heart, they are PvE games. So it seems like this is going to be a little different. This might be more PvP focused, which I don't know how I feel about that. I've never been a huge fan of PvP in Souls games. We'll have to wait and see though. I am still very excited for it, and this was by far the most shocking announcement, came out of left field, so we'll just wait and see. And of course, the moment that we have all been waiting for, Silksong 2025. At last, it's been years. I think it's been 6 years, almost 7 years since Silksong was even announced. And finally we are getting a release date. Well, I say that, even that's wrong. We got a time window, 2025. We don't have a new date specifically yet, but there is a confirmation of the year. Part of me still doesn't want to believe this because we've literally been promised release dates before. We've been promised release windows before by both, Xbox, by Team Cherry themselves, and it just kept getting delayed and delayed. So I feel like there's still a chance that it just gets delayed again, but at the same time, it's been so long, and I feel like Team Cherry knows that people are just tired of waiting, that they would only announce it at this point if they were serious about it. So I do genuinely think this is real this time. The funniest thing is, in the Direct, it was there for 6 seconds. It was just during one of the sizzle reels of future games to come to the Switch 2. It wasn't ceremonious at all. It just popped up, I literally missed it. I got up from the stream to go grab a drink, and I came back, and people were freaking out in the chat or something. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't realize that it was a Silksong, time window until after the stream. I went to a video like covering like the big stuff, and it was there, Silksong. So that was kind of weird. I feel like it's almost like Nintendo punishing Team Cherry for being like, hey, you guys have not talked at all about this, so we're only going to give you a little tiny slot. But regardless, we got a time window, and I cannot be happier. But unfortunately, aside from all these amazing announcements, all this hype, all of these new games and highly anticipated games, there is some bad news. The stream did not actually reveal any pricing, and only went up on their website shortly after. The console will be $449. Yikes. I mean, listen, I expected expensive. I expected, $400. After all, I believe the Switch 1 was $350. So, a big jump in price is kind of expected. I feel like $400 would have been a bit better, but they went with $450. And hey, it is a modern console. It's going to be running at 120 frames. It's going to have a lot of storage. It looks like a truly kind of premium console. And being, way newer than any of the other consoles, newer than the PS5, newer than the Xbox Series X, it kind of makes sense to be a bit closer in price. I think $450 is fine, especially if the specs and performance are as good as they sound. But that is not the worst of it. The games are also going to have a huge jump in price, and this might be the worst part of everything here. I mean, the console itself being $450 it's already kind of, sad enough, but games aren't going to be $70, not even $80, up to $90. That is insane. I mean, just a while back, when games started getting, the $70 price tag, Tears of the Kingdom, Black Ops 6, a couple other, big AAA titles, they started bumping up the price. $60 has been the main price for decades, and it has not gone up at all until just recently. And just when the gaming sphere is kind of getting used to $70 games, just a $10 spike, it's been decades. I think most people can agree, okay, for games that actually deserve the $70 price tag, it's fine. I'm fine with paying $70 for a game that I'm going to put hundreds of hours in. That's fine. But just a couple years later, it's been 2 years since this whole controversy of the $70 price tag, and Nintendo is bumping it up to $80 to $90 for their titles. Now, it sounds like not every game is going to be this much. It sounds like it's going to be just the big Nintendo games. So Mario Kart World, the new DK, probably the new FromSoft game. These are all going to be $80 or $90. That is rough. A $20 increase, in some cases $30 increase from the average market price. That's rough. This is definitely the most controversial aspect of all of this. This is all people are talking about. It is really, really sucky, and it just comes off as incredibly greedy from Nintendo's part. I don't think this is going to help them at all. I honestly see this really hurting their bottom line. I still think the Switch 2 is going to be a success. I think people are going to buy it anyway, but I feel like they'd be better off with, slightly normal prices. I feel like if they had just kept, game prices normal, even with the $450 console, I think it would help a ton. I just don't think that these prices are going to help sales. I think this is going to end up hurting sales. Regardless, though, I mean, it's Nintendo. They can do what they want. They are the titan of the industry. They have leverage over this kind of thing. People are going to buy their products anyway. So it really, really sucks. And it just goes to show, no matter how amazing Nintendo's consoles or their games are, they are still one of the greediest companies out there. And it just really sucks to see this level of just anti-consumerism from them. And this isn't even the end of it. I mean, the prices are probably the worst point of all this, but another huge thing that I think needs to be talked about even more here, which I am very upset about, is the way they're treating physical copies. You see, normally a physical game, whether it's a cartridge, a disc, it has the base game on it. So you don't need the internet to, download the game. If you lose your account, you still own the game. You can just pop the disc in and enjoy it. Switch 2 is changing that. They are not gonna give you the game if you get a physical copy. The cartridge that you get is just gonna have like a code on it that tells Nintendo, hey, this guy has a license to then download the game from the internet. So one of the main reasons people buy physical games is just gone with the Switch 2 now. If you are someone who likes to buy physical games to own your game, you do not own your game anymore for Switch 2. We've seen this many times where games can simply be taken off of the store. They can disappear and you're not allowed to play it anymore. That's why physical games are important. If I have my PlayStation account with, hundreds of downloaded games, sure, it's nice and convenient to just, hop on the game without having to use a disc. But if I lose my account, I lose that entire investment. I lose all of those games. And if Sony wants to, just take a game off of the store, I can't play it anymore because it's on download. And Switch 2 is basically just removing the kind of safety net that physical games have. If you have a hard copy of a game and no internet, you can't play the game. This is just another step in a really bad direction for the gaming industry that I think needs more attention. It really sucks to see this happening. I believe it was a couple years ago that one of the Ubisoft devs, or maybe it was the CEO, he basically said something along the lines of, gamers need to get comfortable not owning their games anymore. And that is frightening. I mean, what is the point in buying if you're not owning? It really, really sucks to see this getting worse and worse. And this, along with the prices, really just soured the entire Direct. Well, that is about everything there is to talk about here. There is a lot to take in, a lot. The Direct was like over an hour long. So I might make, another video or two here kind of going more in depth on specifics. But that's about everything, there's plenty to be hyped about, but it really is hard to with the bad news mixed in. So I'll try my best to stay positive here and, hopefully Nintendo will see the backlash and do something, but I doubt that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, my name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.